Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel.
I had to put on my reaching hat. Hear me out. Hi, thank you for clicking. So I'm sorry if you hear my dog, she wanted to be here with me. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much. I appreciate you more than you know. And if you're new to my channel, hi. I wear foil hats and I talk about true crime and conspiracies. Please subscribe if you want to see that. So Chad Daybell, Chad Daybell had his hearing today, and it was a preliminary hearing. It basically was talking about bail and the hearing, whether he wanted remote or not, or whether he wanted a speedy trial, and explaining the charges.
Mr. Daybell, have you had a chance to review that criminal complaint as well as the arrest warrant with your counsel?
Yes.
Mr. Pryor, I can read the criminal complaint in its entirety, or I can summarize it for you.
Judge, we'll waive actually formal reading of the criminal complaint at this time, and I've discussed that matter with Mr. Daybell, and we're ready to proceed forward without either a summary or a formal reading at this point.
All right. The court is going to summarize briefly what the charges are, so that's on the record. The allegation is that the defendant, Chad Guy Daybell, on or between the 22nd day of September 2019 and the 9th day of June 2020, in the county of Fremont, state of Idaho, did willfully conceal and or aid and abet another to willfully conceal human remains, knowing that said human remains were about to be produced, used and or discovered as evidence in a felony proceeding, inquiry and or investigation authorized by law with the intent to prevent it from being so produced, used and or discovered. Count 2 is also the same charge. Mr. Daybell, do you understand the allegations on both counts that have been brought against you?
I do.
Mr. Daybell, do you also understand the maximum penalties on each of those counts?
Yes.
Mr. Daybell, do you understand that those maximum penalties could run consecutively, one after the other, or they could run concurrently? Do you understand that?
Yes.
Mr. Pryor and Mr. Wood, that next hearing would be a preliminary hearing or a probable cause hearing. The defendant has a right to have that within 14 days if he's incarcerated. It's my understanding that based upon previous conversations that there'll be a waiver of that speedy preliminary hearing. Is that correct, Mr. Pryor?
It is, Your Honor.
The prosecutor and the defense went back and forth with the judge trying to figure out a date, and they settled on July 1st and 2nd if it spills over, and Lori Vallow's own hearing is July 9th and 10th. So we're going to get Chad's first, and then we're going to get Lori's. Then the judge asked them to give their arguments regarding bail. We also got a very big reveal, which was that the 2 human remains that were found are believed to be of children.
I'd like to hear argument from both parties regarding bail. So why don't I hear from the state first, and then I'll hear from the defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state is requesting the bail be set at $1 million. While we recognize that felony concealing of evidence only has a maximum sentence of 5 years per charge, I think the background and context of this case necessitates a higher bail. One of the primary reasons we are asking that bail be set in that amount is that the evidence that has been concealed in this case, it's not simply a document, drugs, a gun. These are human remains. And we can, although those remains have not yet been positively identified, we are aware that those remains are the remains of children, which we believe is an aggravating factor. Knowing what the subject matter is, we find it extremely serious.
Your Honor, I would point out that the charges are, as Mr. Wood pointed out, carry a maximum of 5 years. Mr. Daybell is not charged with anything more serious. And quite honestly, for the prosecuting attorney to assume that in the future he may or may not do that, and that we should increase the bail with the idea that in the future there may be something else coming down the pipe is just clearly contrary to what the purpose of bail is. Bail is to assure that Mr. Daybell shows up to court. Bail is to assure that he's not a flight risk And there's nothing, as far as I'm concerned, in his history that indicates that he's going to flee the jurisdiction. When the police showed up at his house last night, Mr. Daybell didn't flee. Mr. Daybell didn't abscond. Mr. Daybell didn't run. Mr. Daybell's intention was, through his counsel, to turn himself into the court if that was something that was going to happen and address these issues. He has every intention of addressing these issues. He has significant family in the community. He has kids that live here. He owns property here. And quite honestly, I disagree with Mr. Wood. So at this point, Judge, I would ask the court to put the bail at an amount that's appropriate for a 5-year felony sentence. A $1 million bail is not okay for a 5-year felony sentence. And if in the future Mr. Wood decides to pursue other charges, I'm sure we'll address this again. But at this point, Your Honor, I think it's important for the court to set a bail at an appropriate amount based on the 2 felony 5-year sentences. I would ask the court for $50,000 on each count for a total of $100,000.
The judge denied him, thankfully.
The court has listened carefully to the argument of both parties. The court is going to set bail in the amount of $1 million. The allegation is that the evidence was human remains of 2 different people. That's an aggravating fact, and the court has taken that into account.
The judge also set a bunch of conditions for that bail. Some of those conditions are that he must remain in 3 counties that are in Idaho, and he can't change his address. And if he does any kind of change, he does have to notify the court. He must keep in contact with the court weekly and not break laws, and have no contact with the victim's family, even through a third party, whether it be email, phone, text, in person, looking at each other, no contact whatsoever. So that would be including Lori. She's family of the victims, so they can't talk to each other. Love that for them. And so vindictive today. There's nothing funny about this. I'm so sorry for laughing. So as it stands right now, he's gonna be in jail. He can't get out unless he can manage to get that $1 million bail, which I think, if anything, similar to what happened to Lori Vallow, I'm really hoping that no bondsman will touch him and they'll keep him there and they can rot. Which brings me to my next question. Should I spend that $3 and something cents to buy Chad's book about being a gravedigger, or should I not give him money? I'm struggling. Research or morals at this point. So I don't want to give him any money, even if it's just $4 or less than that. I don't want to give him any money, but I do want to read the book and just like look into it a little bit and see if there's any kind of weird things in there, which I'm sure there might be. What do you guys think? Should I buy it or not? Please let me know in the comments below. At least now we know that the children are at peace. You know, they don't have to be with them anymore, and I can't imagine what they went through and how they did it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you guys, and stay safe.